Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Daily News. I'm your host, David Comerford, and I'm joined by David Lynch. And David, we'll get in first of all to a story that's come from the Netherlands about Liverpool's current sporting director, Julian Ward, who is obviously, as we already know, going to be leaving at the end of the season. And there's a report that he's under consideration or in contention to take the job at Ajax. I guess the interesting thing about this, first of all, is we were told at the time that Ward wasn't leaving Liverpool to sort of take up another role. That maybe in the manner of Michael Edwards, it was more to do with almost taking a break, and that it wasn't kind of a sporting decision in that way. So, what do you make of it from that standpoint?
It's possibly a little bit concerning in that it sort of blows that idea apart, doesn't it? That Julian Ward is going to take a break. And I know the news has come from the Ajax side, so you could say you can take it with a pinch of salt in terms of maybe they will or will not be interested. But I know the journalist involved is incredibly reliable in terms of reporting on Ajax news. So not just one of those that's been thrown out there as a potential name. It looks like there is some genuine interest there, and I think as Liverpool supporters, would think, okay, maybe it's got to the point where he's taken the job from Michael Edwards and thought, okay, this isn't for me, and I do need this break. He has been involved at Liverpool for a long time, so it was believable that he would maybe need a break. But the idea that he's actually going to go and jump into a role with another sort of elite level European club is concerning, as I say, because I think it suggests that, as per some of the reports, that everything's not quite perfect behind the scenes at Liverpool, and there are some disagreements there, and in terms of how the club's taken forward. And the most worrying aspect of that is that that Michael Edwards and Julian Ward, that group of people behind them as well, has done such a good job in terms of recruitment over the years, and that Liverpool are losing that. And that there seems to be some sort of discord there as well. It just suggests that Liverpool are moving away from that model, and maybe that will prove to be successful for them. Maybe they will continue to sign good players, but it is a little bit of a worry because it just represents change, and Liverpool have already got enough of that going on behind the scenes. And yeah, it's just a bit of a worrying one, I think.
I guess the only positive you can kind of say when you look at that is, hopefully this happens with Michael Edwards too. You'd rather than maybe go to a direct sort of European rival. I mean, Ajax, obviously, the serial winners in the Netherlands, haven't necessarily always made the biggest impact in the Champions League, aside from a few years ago, obviously. If it was someone like Manchester United, they were going to maybe be a bit more worried given their track record at Liverpool. So we'll see how that one pans out anyway. But there was something I wanted to ask you on the sports and director front, because I think it was in your article last week for This Is Anfield. You made the point about how there's a possibility that FSG actually wait until there's a new regime in place before any kind of sporting director appointments. Obviously, that could kind of leave Liverpool in limbo a little bit. I mean, how likely is that, and how big an issue would it be as well if they do kind of allow this to drag on for months without a successive award, who as we know is going to be leaving?
Yeah, but I have to stress that Liverpool sort of privately saying that the search is ongoing. They don't expect an appointment to be made until the summer, but that search is ongoing. I think in given the possibility that the FSG could still be in post, then this takeover stuff is moving slowly at the moment, although that can obviously very quickly change. So they do believe that they possibly will have to put someone in that post, and you can't just leave it vacant because it's such a vital cog in that team there, the team behind the team. So they are out there assessing their options and looking, but it's just the reason I wrote that is you can see why they would want to delay it in terms of not having a successor lined up straight away and knowing that, okay, this person's going to take over from Julian Ward when he leaves, because it gives them that wiggle room really in terms of saying, well, new owners may wish to come in and appoint their own man. I also just think from the perspective of any possible sporting director there is out there, it's not a particularly attractive role at the moment, knowing that your predecessors have left and having reportedly felt like they haven't had the ability to do their job, but also knowing that you could take over as sporting director under FSG and then new owners could come in and say, actually we want to put our own stamp on things. We don't think you're the person to take it forward. No one's going to move from a top job as a sporting director at another European side to come join Liverpool at the moment when they know that job could be dragged from underneath them pretty quickly. So I just think it just feeds into this idea as well. The whole situation around that really is that there's so much uncertainty at Liverpool at the moment because of the takeover stuff and the possibility of a takeover or looking for investment. Michael Gordon's not involved on a day-to-day basis anymore. His focus has gone to that. We know what's happening with the sporting director situation. It just shows you really why it's so important that there's some certainty either way, whether that's FSG saying, okay, we're going to stay put, or we've secured some outside investment, or a full takeover, which I know is, some fans would maybe prefer. We just need some form of certainty, because at the moment, it feels like everything's in limbo, and any decision they make, they would maybe hesitate because they know it could be a takeover down the line. It's just a really difficult situation for everyone, I think.
And one last question on that before we move on. You mentioned about the likelihood, according to Liverpool, that this might take until the summer to finalise an appointment. I mean, how long would you say a sporting director kind of needs to embed themselves into a club? I mean, this is coming up now, arguably the biggest transfer window of the whole Jurgen Klopp era in terms of the direction that the rest of it will be going in. It's a concern, I think, then to hear that it might sort of take that long, because in an ideal world, you'd want someone to come in and be able to really kind of set out all their plans for the summer, get that all sorted, and then you're ready to kind of go into the window proactively, get your targets early, things like that. It seems like it could go the other way if the appointment is only coming in sort of like June time, for example.
Yeah, no, it also suggests that whoever comes in, that the main role in that first summer will be more to do with negotiations and dealing with other clubs rather than anything in terms of strategy-wise, which is a complete departure from what Liverpool are used to in recent years, which has obviously been that Michael Edwards and his team have set the strategy in terms of it's been analytics-led, and these are the players we want. Okay, this is what we need. What do the numbers show us? Who will be the good targets? And then go from there as a starting point, whereas yeah, it will feel like someone's coming in. The targets have probably already been agreed amongst the team, and then it's a case of just getting those deals over the line and doing the negotiating. Whether that would change going forward, I'm not sure. We still don't know. There's so many unknowns about what the transfer strategy is going to be going forward, and whether this is a case of a complete change in how Liverpool do things, or just the case that, as we mentioned before, that maybe Michael Edwards just wanted to move on and have a break, and maybe Julian Ward isn't going to Ajax. He is actually going to have a break. We'll see how that all pans out. But again, it's just another situation full of uncertainty, and it's really difficult to sort of nail down exactly how that's going to look, this process, and who's going to come in and what their job's going to look like.
Yeah, I suppose it's hard to have too much optimism ahead of the summer window if that is to be the case. But let's look at another story that emerged yesterday, this time concerning Naby Keita. It's reported that Tottenham are one of the teams interested in taking him at the end of the season when his Liverpool contract runs out. If he goes to another Premier League team, is there a possibility that Liverpool end up regretting their failure to extend his contract, or do you think they'll just kind of look at it and say, you know what, we were fully justified in our decision, no matter how well he does at Spurs, we can't control that. That would just be the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, I think it would be benefit of hindsight, because I think you look at his situation at the moment and the amount of money that Liverpool have poured into him over a 5-year contract. When he came from Leipzig with such a big reputation and just hasn't quite lived up to it because of injuries. I just think there wouldn't be a single justification from Liverpool's side of things to say, okay, we're going to give him another contract and try again and hope that these fitness problems that just really haven't gone away. I think he's had probably one season of full fitness, which was last season, and then back to being injured again, really. And I think if Spurs want to take that gamble, I think Liverpool would say fair play to him and let them get on with that, really, because I just don't think you could justify it with Naby, really. I don't know whether that's because the Premier League is not suited to him or whatever. The physicality of this league is slightly different to others. And you wonder from the player's perspective on that point, actually, whether he would just be better suited to going back to the Bundesliga, trying to show his best again, because it just really hasn't happened for him at Liverpool. And I think that's why I'm sort of taking this Tottenham link with a bit of a pinch of salt, because I'm not, I think it would be a poor decision on their part, really, to have seen his body of work at Liverpool and think that they would have a better chance of getting a tune out of him. I'm not so sure that's going to be the case, to be honest.
Yeah, it would be a huge risk. And just to finish up on Keita, you mentioned that last season was the one where he was actually injury-free. To be fair, his sort of stocks at Liverpool probably at their highest last summer. But is there a case to be made that, given that they might not have planned to hand him a new contract because of what came before, really, that they should have cashed in on what might have been a pretty lucrative asset last summer, been ruthless in the market, rather than allowing him to leave for free now? Because it's always seemed like a policy that's at odds with the model that is to do with kind of reinvesting money, allowing players to leave for free. And obviously, he's not the only one that might apply to. Is that just kind of, like I said earlier, is that just hindsight, or should Liverpool have maybe been a little bit more kind of proactive? I mean, was there an element maybe of, he's had this really good season, let's give him the first half of next year, and if he can build on that, then he's got a genuine chance? Or was it never likely that he was going to get a contract and maybe a sale would have been the right decision?
I'm not so sure whether they would have gone into the season thinking, like you say, if he's had a good 6 months coming up now, then maybe we'll give him the new deal, because I just think it's too short of a sample size for him to say, okay, well, he's completely over his injury problems now. The only thing I could suggest is that there wasn't real genuine interest in him over the summer. There was no one sort of floating around thinking they wanted a deal to go ahead, or the player himself thought that the contract offers out there weren't really sort of anything he'd want to pull away from Liverpool for, or because I just think if it was decent money on the table and a move that the player himself would have wanted to make, I just can't see Liverpool having turned it down. I think they'd learned enough at that point, even though he'd had his best season in terms of availability that year before. I still think they would have bitten someone's hand off if a decent enough bid had come in, and I just can't think that was possibly there, or the player wanted to move. So they ended up in a situation where it's another player that they're losing on a free, which has been a bit of a habit that's formed in recent years. There's other players who are going to go this summer on free transfers as well. I'm thinking Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and James Milner. We've got the Roberto Firmino situation, and it's, for a club who needs to run transfers in a particular way and raise funds in a particular way, it's a real blow, really, to be losing so many players on frees and not being able to cash in on them. And I think that's been part of the reason they've sort of struggled to reinvest back into the team as much as you would quite like in recent years, and something that, whatever the strategy is going forward, and we've had the big chat about that today, they really do need to sort that side of things out again and sort of become a good selling club again, because that was such a cornerstone of the strategy previously.
Yeah, it was always an area where they excelled, and it is maybe one of them, with Keita, where there wasn't necessarily just the right package on the table. But yeah, that'll about wrap us up for this morning. Thanks very much, David. We'll be back tomorrow at the same time for another Liverpool Daily News stream. In the meantime, remember to look at all the written content that goes up on liverpool.com today. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.